Well, welcome everyone. Welcome. I thought about it. Is it San Juan Islanders? What? Yeah, is that right? Okay. And curious people, art lovers, animal lovers, welcome. My family, thank you. I am here to tell you about my exhibit, Crush, with 18 pieces in the North Gallery. First of all, I would like to thank Rob Ray. He presented my exhibition proposal to the committee and helped start things 16 months ago. And then lovely Sherry Bell took over in January 2025, taking care of my exhibition and all my questions. Thank you. And then, of course, awesome Blake DeYoung and Wendy Smith, who have helped make the exhibition as beautiful as it could be. The way that the work is presented, I think, is the best I've ever had. So I'm so honored. This is my friend Beth that helped to deliver the work. We drove from San Diego, so it took us, of course, 2.5 days, and in a big van, but we had a great time. So that's us while we were setting up. I would also really like to thank my dad. I don't know why I'm so, he's right here. But I'm so grateful because he's always supported me in anything that I tried, whether it was art or animals or my education or experiences with pets. I had the great fortune to have a horse and lambs and dogs and cats and chickens, and he supported all of that. And even up until coming here, but also helping me to pack the van, just always there. And I also want to thank, of course, my beautiful husband, Peter. He's my travel partner. That's us in Trinidad, just seeing beauty and photographing this glorious planet. And that gives me the experiences for my work. This is us being silly this is Mobius Arch in Alabama Hills. And so we get up early and stay out late to photograph the nature and animals that we love so much. And he's there for me. He actually prepares my meals when I'm out in the studio, and also helps take care of our crazy cats. And while I'm out at conservation talks, I'm also grateful to have my brother here, Sean, and his girlfriend Jennifer, my friend Lonnie, and all the friends along the way. And also the staff here, all the volunteers, and all the people I've met here in San Juan Island. So I thought I would tell you a little bit about who I am and then how my work developed. These are pictures of me working on the intellectual, which is in the show, and also working on Zara, the jaguar, and using my mask, staying safe. I work with a lot of different art groups. I'm a member with the West Coast Drawing Group, the Paisanos International Group, where we've shown in Barcelona and also all around Mexico. And I'm also part of the San Diego River Artists Alliance, which is a group that is art group putting a spotlight on the San Diego River and the ecosystems of the river, and in all of our own viewpoint, how we see the river. So of course mine's about animals. I also am part of Arte Estandarte, which is a group that has banners all throughout the international airports of Mexico. So it's been a fun challenge working with all these different people. And I am also a photographer. There's a fence there, but these are wild horses on the other side up in Nevada. I am grateful for the experiences I've had as a photographer because they have led to the artwork that I've created, including a lot of the jaguar paintings in the exhibition. And so these are just a couple of the amazing experiences that I've had going to Africa and Brazil, and I thought I'd show you a couple of photos. So I just picked one from each place, not so easy, But I just wanted to show you the drama that you get to experience in these places. Cutie monkeys in Costa Rica and some of the wild horses that we observed. My gosh, just so beauty is just, you don't have to go far. That's one of the photographs that was inspiring the pieces in the exhibition. And then I'm also just inspired by my own front yard. I'm also a teacher. I teach high school art. I teach beginning and advanced art, and I also won Teacher of the Year this year. And thank you. Thank you. I'm an adjunct professor at Cuyamaca College, and I also, with dual enrollment, and I'm also a private instructor, so I currently have an individual that I teach once a week, and I do small groups as well. And this is my classroom, one of my favorite classes. They're not all my favorites. This one's a favorite. Yeah. And then, of course, my partnership with Peter. This is out in the Pantanal. This is the best way to see jaguars out in a boat. So the best picture would be to have us posing like that and then have the jaguar walking across the side, but I didn't quite get that. And that's at Mono Lake, the Tufas. Some of you probably have been there. And then I'm a cat mom. That's Rhino and Oso. And I'm obviously an animal advocate. I call myself a conservation artist because I work with these organizations trying to promote their preservation of important animals like rhinos and jaguars. So a few of these are located in the UK or are international or national. And then I also have milkweeds in the yard for the monarch butterflies. So trying to stay local too. And this is just last fall, I painted this elephant painting for the Global Conservation Force. They raise money for security of rhinos and other wildlife, and they also do mounted patrol on horses, canines, drones, and obtain land. So they're very, very valuable as a group. That's a Global Conservation Force. And then I work with the Helping Rhinos, which is an overarching organization that helps support Zululand Rhino Orphanage. So Peter and I went to this orphanage in South Africa 2 years ago, and this rhino, who was only 2 weeks old, just had arrived. And this rhino was actually rejected from his mother, but most of the rhinos that are orphaned are a result of poaching, their mothers being killed for their horns. And this little rhino won my heart. If Peter wasn't with me, I don't know if I would have come home. People care for these animals for years and years and really don't take a break. They don't go out to dinner. This rhino required milk feedings 5 times a day. And there were 8 rhinos at the time, and now they're up to 23. So that tells you how desperate things are. Well, I was trying to lift it up with that cute picture, and then I just took you down. But, you know, of course, how did it all start? And I'm sure you could see that there's, you know, a lot of animal interest, but it started very early. And there are some major events that I wanted to explain that kind of sent me this direction. So this was my room. I think I was about 9 or so, and you could kind of tell that there may be one thing that's not an animal in that scene, but everything else was all about animals. And I was lucky to grow up in East County of San Diego, where I was able to have animals and experience them and learn to love them and know that they have feelings. And I actually really feel that they became my friends just like human friends. And I realized their value. I also raised lambs for 4-H, and this all kind of came together with starting to have an interest in art and photography too. So I had a little camera, and I would take pictures when I went on my walks in the neighborhood and with my lamb or on my horse. I was lucky enough to have, I'm wearing suspenders, so that tells you that was in the 70s. And we went to see Mount Rushmore, and I had more pictures of the squirrel than I had of Mount Rushmore. And so I thought that I would show you the actual picture. There it is. And it's really cute, right? No wonder. I drew unicorns and Garfield and the Black Stallion to start. And some of the major events, though, that besides learning my love for animals and photography and art, were a couple of trips. I was fortunate to go on 3 Rotary exchanges when I was young for a month at a time, and went to Morocco and Germany and to Brazil. And I have a picture that definitely dates me. So you can see those amazing clothes that I was wearing in Morocco after riding camels. I don't know if I would do that now. I also took environmental studies, and I realized that that nature is in a cycle, and the cycle, it's not endless, and so it needed our attention, and that was like kind of a wake-up call to me. And then when I was 24, I went on a conservation safari. I was very much encouraged by my father to go. And there I met amazing people and saw my first orphanages. So when I was there, I met this woman, Anna Mertz, who started the Liwa Conservancy, and she had hand-raised that rhino. This is back in 1994, and she was already in charge of the patrols. There were 24-hour patrols, and even then they said, in our lifetimes, we'll probably lose rhinos in the wild. And this woman was doing her best to change that. I was so inspired. And we also went to the Sheldrick's Wildlife Trust in Nairobi and met Daphne Sheldrick. She's passed since then, but she is the grande dame of elephant orphans and has saved so many that there are hundreds out in the wild now that are having their own elephants. And they live a long time, so that is quite a legacy. And I worked at a place, I volunteered at a place up in Chico called the Barry R. Kirshner Wildlife Foundation, and it looks really nice to be handling these animals maybe, but that was a discovery that that's not where I belonged. I did not belong handling animals that were in cages. I knew that it didn't feel right. And so I also, at that time, became vegetarian, and I feel like that was my first act of animal advocacy. So getting to the art, you've heard a lot about me, but I have been painting animals for a very long time, but the style has changed a lot, and I thought I would share how that came about. I have a pretty good, CV, like with my training, but I've also trained with my husband in photography. So I feel like that I have the best of both worlds. This is a style that I painted before. This is Octopods Attack SD, and you may or may not see, but there are some tarantulas crawling up the side of the building. That building was actually a building that you worked on, Sean. Don't know if yeah? Okay, and I wanted to have animals kind of getting a little bit of revenge. So that was the idea for my work. This is an oil painting. And just to show you one other example, the new predator was the tractor, or probably has a more technical term, pushing the zebra off the cliff. Pretty overt message. Then I traveled to Spain, and and things clicked in a different way for me. After driving through Seattle, I feel like graffiti probably has a pretty bad name. I mean, there's a lot, right? And it doesn't look very good. But when I was in Spain, there was a lot there too. But what I noticed was that several artists had tagged the same door, and at different times and with different materials. And I liked that layering because in the end, it all balanced out. It all seemed like it fit together. And so there are stickers and oil pens and paint pens and stencils, but it all seems like it works together. Here are a couple other examples. So cool. And I had never done stencil work before and nor spray painting. And so, I came back with that idea. Here's just another one. This one says, who speaks Spanish? Okay, what does that say? Your name here. So I did put my name on there. That was in Spain. So cool. So I started to try some stencils, and they were little at first. You can see that I've got an elephant here and a lion, and they were pretty simple and just 2 tones. And there's a big learning curve with those. And these are some very small paintings. They're only like 8 by 10, and that's kind of where I started. You can see I was trying to show the difference of different hands, different people coming in, and yet it was all mine. And Gur series, the piece that's the diptych in the show, was where I feel like I first figured it all out. Not only like just visually, but also starting to think about how I was presenting the work. So for example, the piece on the left is called North Winter. So I was thinking of winter, and also that tigers are beautiful, and we all think they're beautiful, and they're walker of sacred paths, and there are butterflies around, and the movement is very loving. And it even, I started to layer some of the messages, like there were 3,200 left at the time. So there are some numbers, there's writing all in there. And I even used my left hand to try to make it look different. And then on the right, the tiger, South Fire, is angry, and he's the man-eater tiger. And he's, full of this like power and hatred also, because we tend to hate our predators. And so I wanted to show that duality, and I feel like I finally figured that out for myself. And you probably see that theme in the work that's in the show. And I wanted to share with you how I work. And I did not bring my spray paint. You don't have to worry. Yeah. So I try to stay safe and have my mask on and paint pens. These are obviously just a few examples, and trusty gloves. And this is just a couple images process of how I work. So I start with the canvases. This is on the ground. And they, big paintbrushes, and then start to try to figure out a movement that I want, or an energy that I want of the animals that I'm going to include. And the work has to dry, and then, taking out a household paintbrush or larger tools like the Crink pens and kind of developing it. The line work just keeps developing. And then started with some of the stencils. There's some rays of light and also some small embellishments. And then adding the first subject. So that's a 3-part stencil of a shark, and those all have to dry in between also. So it's, I spray, and then I leave, and then I come back. And so that was the final image. And so you can see a little example of how the layers work. Now I actually just told you all my secret. Now I just thought about that. Yeah. Now you're gonna start making paintings like mine. The stencils, well, the stencils I showed you, they were so simple, but they've definitely ramped up. I have a video to show you, And this is the rattlesnake that's in the exhibit. And I trace the whole thing out and label all the spots, like R was red, B was black, G was gray, W is white. And I have to label it all because then I have to trace it all again 4 or 5 times and just draw out all the blacks or all the whites, or there's rhino, or all the grays. And it doesn't mean that the animal is all black and white and gray. It's just my way of knowing the dark and the light. And I use my slider so that I can see through, and Sharpie pens. And I have to think about that while I'm working and make sure I get all the spots. But the beauty is sometimes I miss some spots. And you may have noticed those in the show if you were looking at the stencils closely. These are the jaguar from SJIMA, the 3 different layers. The white, and then, you know, what I would call the gold. You see there's some bridges, because if you just cut out the eye all the way around, the whole thing falls out. So you have to think about cutting so that you don't lose your detail. The drawing takes a long time. You saw the layering takes a long time, but the cutting really takes a long time. And so I have a short video of me cutting. This video is thanks to Peter, as he had made a documentary about my work. And so this is, you know, cutting and thinking like what I want to cut out, because if I make a mistake and cut out too much, I've lost a lot of detail. And that rattlesnake had all those scales. And it was challenging, but it's one of my favorite stencils. Just using the X-Acto knife and trying to pull, this is the tongue being pulled out. But you know, the beauty of the stencil is I can use it again. It's not just a one-time object, and so I actually now have all a giant box of vertical rolled up stencils, but also some flat shelves for a lot of the stencils that I've made. And even the guns that are around SJIMA are all stencils also. So I cut out what I need to for the piece. I have a real fast time lapse of the process. This is, I just want to tell you because it's pretty quick. It's Value, the painting in the gallery that has rhinos in it. And you'll see that I even use some plants in the process. So I drip paint, smear it around, make some decisions. When I put the stencils down, I have to put wood or rocks around all of the edges so that the paint doesn't slide underneath. And so you can tell that this is like different days and different nights working on this, probably just from the time lapse. And then one layer at a time, put the next layer down, hopefully it lines up, and then work on the details afterwards. So those rocks have been painted hundreds of times. And then a lot of paint pen work at the very end. I like the paint pen for detail, and I like the metallic for the way that it shines and also looks different in dark and light. The message and the voice is the key to all of this. I didn't want to just paint beautiful animals. If you watched my interview, you saw that, where I said that I felt like it was not being respectful to just paint a beautiful animal. It was more important to tell their story and their struggle. But I also know that it is important to be hopeful. And so I wanted to make the animals resilient, you know, powerful, and like overcoming what they have endured and winning. And so those are, you know, my ultimate goals. And in these pieces, these are examples of how I use shapes or energy. So these are from the same piece, coat of arrows. And of course the arrows are a little bit of the punch from the environment and the struggles, but also the sharp shapes are something that I use often to try to show like the tension, and also the type of scribbles that's an energy down by its feet, like kind of a frantic energy to show that they're not just relaxed, they're not healthy, But as I said, they are resilient. And I also, with Tokite and others, I often have rays going out. I want the energy, I want you to feel the energy of the animals, and in this case, with her escaping, so, you know, her enclosure, and feeling all this energy and, you know, sending it out to the world. I also use metallics, and also this is a good example of some of the glitter you might have seen. There's a holographic glitter, so it's catching the light, and so you have to look at the work at different angles, and hopefully you'll see that dimension. I feel so fortunate to have traveled to places where, like the last two northern white rhinos are, the two females, the end of the line for that species. So these are some examples of some of the small pieces that are now in people's homes around the world and helping to support those programs. I just want to give back. I thought I'd show you a little video of Lula. You know, this carer is an employee, but like I said, they don't leave very often. It's tiring. You have to get up early, stay up late, and if a rhino comes in and needs attention, you might stay with it 24 hours. There was someone sleeping with this rhino each night to make sure he was okay, but look how cute he is. He's just like a little dog. And, you know, seeing something like that, if you're not moved to preserve an animal like that, then, you know, like your heart is hard. Because how cute is it? I think that if you were to look at all the pieces, even though the stories are tragic, the animals are powerful, and they're going to be okay. And that's as long as we, you know, do something, make them a priority. And that's really the goal of my work, is try to make you feel. I hope you feel when you're seeing those paintings, and that you think about your experiences. I know we had lots of conversations about ravens and other animals that people had encountered, or coyote, and that's really the whole idea. Please, just keep feeling.